I've had the MelonenKacke Procyon Speed for about a year now, and I thought it was worthy of a review. Unfortunately, I've had my share of injuries over the last year and haven't been riding nearly as much as I would have liked, but I think I have enough miles or kilometers on this deck to say hopefully something somewhat useful about it. When I think of this deck summed up in a word, I would say it's a racehorse. It is very precision designed and built with the purpose of speed in mind, and I think it delivers on that specification. I also think this deck doubles as a very comfortable cruising slash distance board that you don't always have to ride that fast. It's still quite comfortable, and I think that's what makes it really special. I'm coming from the Wiggler, which I probably have the most miles on out of any of my decks. That was always one of my favorite boards, and this one is just a little bit extra special for many reasons, but I'll try to describe them here today. For starters, you look at the contour of the deck. I thought that was a little bit strange at first. I was worried about my foot comfort because of these two sort of more angular changes in the concave on the sides, and I wasn't sure how my feet would like that. I wear minimalist shoes, and I was concerned I wouldn't like the position it put my feet in, but those concerns were unwarranted. It turns out it's quite comfortable. I find thicker shoes with more cushioning to be more of a challenge for my feet than any deck, and this deck is just super comfortable with minimalist shoes. Grip is excellent. I have a very minimal grip tape on this, and I like it that way so I can move my feet around without any restriction, and it has plenty of grip between my little stars and the contour of the deck and a footstop. The flex on this board is excellent. It is very purposeful flex. Actually, the first half of the deck where your feet are placed is pretty stiff, and then it feels a little bit more flexy in the back where you want it, where you really want to dig that rear truck into the asphalt and generate some of the power with your pump. I think it does that quite well, and it rewards incremental improvements in technique, which I'm finding out now as I'm trying to get back into pumping. This deck is sort of ready to grow with you when you want to put in the effort in terms of pumping. I mentioned pumping, but that said, it's an excellent pusher as well. It's so stable, and it feels rigid where it needs to be, and very planted and confidence inspiring. So if you want to hit it hard, this deck is ready to push as fast as you can push it. The way I have it configured now is with a super duper fork from G-Bomb on the front. The deck plays nicely with any standard racket hardware. What I like about the super duper fork and the way I have it mounted with the space truck, I have it mounted higher and it's not drop through, as you can see. I wanted to get the deck a little bit higher, closer to a top mount pumper, but unlike a top mount with the offset where the wheels are, you lose a little bit of leverage over the front truck, but you gain the ability to drop it just slightly. So it's about the height of a cruiser deck with smaller wheels. It's easy enough to push, but I think I feel that increased leverage with pumping. So it's kind of in between. You could say it's a jack of all trades, master of none, or you could say, you know, it's an excellent pumper that still pushes pretty well, and that's sort of what I was going for. I've only used the deck with 90-ish millimeter wheels. It has bee's knees on. I've tried it with Karmas. I've tried it with megawatts. It plays nicely with all of those standard 90-ish millimeter wheels. You could certainly put on 100 millimeter wheels without any problem. There's plenty of deck clearance in any configuration that I've tried. Regarding the space truck, its two most appealing attributes to me are the ease of maintenance, and that the kingpin is very easily removable. The pivot is serviceable. Should it ever wear down, you can replace it. I haven't had any issues with the pivot. It's been rock solid, and it uses these bearing spacers or bushing spacers between the bushing and the spherical bearing that they serve two practical purposes. One is the thing I've noticed the most. You don't have to recess the bushings at all. You can just put in a stock bushing, and you don't have to worry about it getting chewed up by the spherical. And then for Lena's design, it's designed to increase rebound, and it does that in a way that is not intrusive, but it does alter your pumping technique slightly. At least for me, it takes me a little while to get used to not having to work the truck, you know, in any more than you absolutely have to. It rewards efficiency over effort, and that's something that is taking me a little while to get used to, but I think you'd appreciate more the farther that you're going distance-wise. So it's a fun truck, it's a very functional truck, and high-performing truck with the interchangeable spacers. It comes with 4mm, 2mm, or you can take the spacers out entirely. Since I don't like bushing maintenance, I've just left it at the 4mm and called it a day. And I'm adapting to it, and I like it enough to switch it to pretty much all of my distance setups and try it on them. Moving down the deck, you can see this graphic that Lena painted based on a painting that my dad made. And you can see the Maryland state flag and then a terrapin on it. So this graphic is special for me for many reasons. And it makes it so that when I look at this deck, I just get really excited to ride. And if you lined up all of my decks and I saw this one, I'm going to want to take this one. Partly because I know how it rides, but also I like how it looks. And the downside with black is that, much like a car, it looks fantastic when it's clean, but it shows all sorts of dirt and dust. But it's a board I clean pretty regularly. And it's something I take pride in. So I think it says something if I clean this deck and not most of my others. Moving down to the rear, I've tried a TTX and pretty much just the TTX in this, but any torsion tail would play nicely with this deck. It rides very well with the TTX, but I also like the Platytail, which I currently have mounted with a 3-degree D-wedge, just to give it a little more lift in the back so it doesn't sag, which I don't know if I've even tried it flat, but this just seemed intuitively like the right thing to do. And then an XLE pivot tail, which I really enjoy. I think the whole deck works well as a package, although you can certainly use other rear pivot trucks or standard torsion tails. It has a slightly different feel, say with a metal torsion tail, where you kind of almost feel that metal twisting, versus this feels a little bit more subtle, maybe a little more organic because you've got more wood involved and fiberglass, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like the tail maybe gets out of the way on this setup until you really need it, or you really feel it going, you know, at higher speeds, 13 plus miles an hour, 20 plus kilometers an hour. I think the rear really comes alive in this deck, and I'll try to show that in a video on the trail, so you can kind of, or at least you can hear me describing it, if not get a sense of it yourself. So in a nutshell, it's a fast deck. It's a very purposefully designed deck, but it's also a fun deck. And I feel like if I could only have one deck in my quiver, it probably would be this one. It's just, I think it's a deck that you can ride at any skill level, but then it'll grow with you. And I don't see any situation in which I will ever outgrow this deck. My Procyon deck doesn't talk, but if it did, it certainly would have said, quit yapping and start riding already. Like I said before, this is like a racehorse that wants to run. And it's perfectly happy to putter along at 8 to 12 miles an hour, you know, something like 16 kilometers per hour. It's a very comfortable deck for doing so, and it'll do that all day long. But it really comes alive around 13 miles an hour, which is what, 21 kilometers an hour. And I don't have the engine to push it, but from 21 to 24 kilometers per hour, 13 to 15 miles an hour, it really comes alive. So I've got a bit of headwind here. But when I get it moving, it wants to run. And something kind of unlocks a little bit with the rear end. It gets a bit looser. And you get into more of that hula hoop with a slight weighing, unweighing of your rear foot. And that's where it's really happy. So here I am, 15, 16 miles an hour. I must have a bit of tailwind or a side wind. So I don't have the stamina for this, but the board can go all day if you've got the engine. I think it's the perfect deck for about a marathon distance. Really snappy flex, very rewarding to let run. Woo. Love it. I'm going to chill on this downhill stretch, catch my breath a little, and do a quick recap. So, the Procyon Speed, it's a deck to grow into, I think. Something to aspire to. It's a great deck for racing, but also cruising and just putting a lot of happy miles on your board. I feel like it's not something I'll ever outgrow. And while I can't hit the limits of its performance, I think in brief spurts I come close to feeling what it's capable of, and that's kind of exciting. Lately I'm not riding for time. I'm doing a lot more little sprints and then catching my breath, lots of filming, sometimes just chilling. And I like it that way. I don't look at my times the way I used to. I don't know if it doesn't interest me or that I just can't achieve the speeds and times I used to, so why try? Either way, I can live with it, just like I can live with this deck. So, very highly recommended. If you love longboarding and LDP, I think you'd love this deck or any of Lena's decks. And if you're not sure which one to pick, if you reach out to her, I'm sure she'll help you sort that out pretty quickly. She's excellent at that sort of thing. So, thanks for watching this far. Hope you get out and ride and enjoy this beautiful day.